Hi there, everybody. So, welcome back to my channel. As promised, 2021 is the year where I'm really going to just open up about all that I have done to come to a place of being at peace for the most part in any circumstance that I find myself in. And so I have shared with you that I do a lot of creative work. Part of my job is that I teach art to kids, and I've always wanted to teach art to everybody, really. But what would end up happening is that I'd first start with the parents of the children, and then I'd try to reach out just to others that I would be in my, comings and goings, whether it be at a workplace or whatever. Because before I was a teacher, I was a manager, a retail manager. And it just never was something that I could get off the ground for whatever reason. Partially, I think it's because creativity and art is one of those things like religion or like politics. Like, once you get like a certain level of knowledge, we as adults, if we're not careful, can completely shut down from any new information, right? And so what would happen is I would say, let's, do some sort of art class together, or even someone would approach me to do it. And then what would end up happening is in the midst of the group of people, no matter, there's always someone who knows more than you, right? So that wasn't my intention to be the most experienced in the room or the one who knew everything. But what would tend to happen is there would be this weird form of competition. And I guess on some levels I can be competitive, but I'm just really not interested in being competitive in the areas of like religion or art or even politics. I really want to seek to understand along with seeking to be heard. And I think so many times what you find is people are seeking to be heard and really don't care to understand your side. So anyway, that being said, this year I really wanted to be more proactive about sharing how it is that when I'm in certain stressful situations, having been a military wife, daughter of someone who was in the military, and traveled all around the world. There's just some things that have been, I don't know, just things that have kept me settled and centered wherever I find myself. Um, the Bible talks about being content in all things, and I think that that is something you have to learn to do and you have to choose to do, right? And so I wanted to share some of the things that I do. So art is, of course, one of them, so you will see that that topic on this channel. But also, I do a lot of meditative reading. So my selection for the next few videos will be based on this book called The Sabbath. So it is by a rabbi named Abraham Heschel, and some people may have heard of him before. I know I've come across his writings before when I've read other books, and it's I was aware of his name, but I decided to pick up this book as a result of a sermon series I was listening to through Wildlife Church, which I'll put that link in the description if you want to take a look at the series I was looking at. And really, it helped me to reimagine what Sabbath is meant to be, right? So I thought I would share some of the reading from this book with you and invite you to just use this as a meditative time for yourself to try to maybe reimagine for yourself what you think Sabbath is supposed to mean. So Sabbath in general terms just means rest. And typically in the Christian tradition, the rest happens on a particular day, Sunday. But what I am finding is that you actually can enter a rest that is going on every day, every hour of the day. That there is more to it than simply a destination, but it's actually something that you can enter into perpetually. Isn't that amazing? So let's go ahead and get started with this book, The Sabbath, by Abraham Joshua Heschel. Architecture of Time. Technical civilization is man's conquest of space. It is a triumph frequently achieved by sacrificing an essential ingredient of existence, namely time. In technical civilization, we expend time to gain space. To enhance our power in the world of space is our main objective. Yet, to have more does not mean to be more. The power we attain in the world of space terminates abruptly at the borderline of time. But time is the heart of existence. To gain control of the world of space is certainly one of our tasks. The danger begins when, in gaining power in the realm of space, we forfeit all aspirations in the realm of time. There is a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be, not to own, but to give, not to control, but to share, not to subdue, but to be in accord. Life goes wrong when the control of space, the acquisition of things of space, becomes our sole concern. Nothing is more useful than power, nothing more frightful. We have often suffered from degradation by poverty. Now we are threatened with degradation through power. There is happiness in the labor of love. There is misery in the love of gain. Let me say that again. There is happiness in the love of labor. There is misery in the love of gain. Many hearts and pitchers are broken at the fountain of profit. Selling himself into slavery to things, a man becomes a utensil that is broken at the fountain. Technical civilization stems primarily from the desire of men to subdue and manage the forces of nature. The manufacture of tools, the art of spinning and farming, the building of houses, the craft of sailing, all this goes on in man's spatial surroundings. The mind's preoccupation with things of space affects, to this day, all activities of man. Even religions are frequently dominated by the notion that the deity resides in space, within particular localities like mountains, forests, trees, and stones, which are therefore singled out as holy places. The deity is bound to a particular land, holiness a quality associated with things of space, and the primary question is, where is the God? There is much enthusiasm for the idea that God is present in the universe, but that idea is taken to mean his presence in space rather than in time, in nature rather than in history, as if he were a thing, not a spirit. Even pantheistic philosophy is a religion of space. The supreme being is thought to be the infinite space. It has extension or space as its attribute, but not time. Time to Spinoza is merely an accident of motion, a mode of thinking, and his desire to develop a philosophy in the manner of geometry, which is the science of space, is significant of his space-mindedness. The primitive mind finds it hard to realize an idea without the aid of imagination, and it is the realm of space where imagination wields its sway. Of the gods, it must have a visible image. Where there is no image, there is no God. The reverence for the sacred image, for the sacred monument or place, is not only indigenous to most religions, it has even been retained by men of all ages, all nations, pious, superstitious, or even anti-religious. They all continue to pay homage to banners and flags, to national shrines, to monuments erected to kings or heroes. Everywhere, the desecration of holy shrines is considered a sacrilege, and the shrine may become so important that the idea it stands for is consigned to oblivion. The memorial becomes an aid to amnesia. The means stultify the end. For things of space are at the mercy of man. Though too sacred to be polluted, they are not too sacred to be exploited. To retain the holy, to perpetuate the presence of God, his image is fashioned. Yet a God who can be fashioned, a God who can be confined, is but a shadow of a man. We are all infatuated with the splendor of space, with the grandeur of things of space. Thing is a category that lies heavy on our minds, tyrannizing all our thoughts. Our imagination tends to mold all concepts in its image. In our daily lives, we attend primarily to that which the senses are spelling out for us, to which the eyes perceive, to what the fingers touch. Reality to us is thinghood, consisting of substances that occupy space. Even God is conceived by most of us as a thing. The result of our thingness is our blindness to all reality that fails to identify itself as a thing, as a matter of fact. This is obvious in our understanding of time, which being thingless or insubstantial appears to us as if it has no reality. That is a lot to think about. But I think that is something that we definitely need to take some time to at least sit with. Because we need to figure out how it is that we quantify time. We hear all the time things like, we're running out of time, or there's no time, or I don't have any time. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, on the one sense, having that sense of urgency, I guess maybe compels you to get things done, in a timely fashion. But I think the other scenario is true as well, which is you constantly feel discouraged by the lack of time, therefore you don't tend to do anything, right? You're paralyzed. So I like the idea of being able to bend our reality of what time means, right? I wonder if you have considered that as maybe the way we quantify time maybe should be rearranged a little bit. Indeed, we know what to do with space, but do not know what to do about time, except to make it subservient to space. Most of us seem to labor for the sake of things of space, and as a result, we suffer from a deeply rooted dread of time, and stand aghast when compelled to look into its face. Time to us is sarcasm, a thick, slick, treacherous monster with a jaw like a furnace incinerating every moment of our lives. Shrinking, therefore, from facing time, we escape for shelter to things of space. The intentions we are unable to carry out, we deposit in space. The intentions we are unable to carry out, we deposit in space. Possessions become the symbols of our repressions, jubilees of frustrations. But things of space are not fireproof. They only add fuel to the flames. Is the joy of possession an antidote to the terror of time, which grows to be a dread of inevitable death? Things, when magnified, are forgeries of happiness. They are a threat to our very lives. We are more harassed than supported by the Frankensteins of spatial things. It is impossible for man to shirk the problem of time. The more we think, the more we realize. We cannot conquer time through space. We can only master time in time. The higher goal of spiritual living is not to amass a wealth of information, but to face sacred moments. In a religious experience, for example, it is not a thing that imposes itself on man, but a spiritual presence. What is retained in the soul is the moment of insight rather than the place where the act came to pass. What is retained in the soul is the moment of insight rather than the place where the act came to pass. Wow. A moment of insight is a fortune, transporting us beyond the confines of measured time. Spiritual life begins to decay when we fail to sense the grandeur of what is eternal in time. Our intention here is not to deprecate the world of space. To disparage space and the blessing of things of space is to disparage the works of creation, the works which God beheld and saw was good. The world cannot simply be seen exclusively as time. Time and space are interrelated. To overlook either of them is to be partially blind. What we plead against is man's unconditional surrender to space, his enslavement to things. We must not forget that it is not a thing that lends significance to a moment. It is the moment that lends significance to things. We must not forget that it is not a thing that lends significance to a moment. It is the moment that lends significance to things. I hope this has given you just some moments to pause. If I had a timer here, I would set it for 2 minutes to just sit in the essence of what's been said. I hope that it has opened up maybe a gateway to understanding time. Not as necessarily as just simply something to be lost or escaping or running out of, but as something that could expand as you notice it. Thanks so much for stopping by. Please make sure to share this with someone that you think would be encouraged by it. Of course, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to know about all the things I'm doing over here on the channel. You can expect to see videos at least 3 times a week. I am really so excited to go on this journey with you. Thanks so much for stopping by.